Big up, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. This is Adam Dot 2024 on this Brazilian channel. So today I want to talk about the Brazilian Cup draw that just happened an hour ago. As of recording this, it was too early, so I couldn't just get up. So I just got up right now. Um, and I have to do this video like this because I do have to not make it too long because I do have something to do personally, I guess. So, but I'm gonna explain about the tie, the news, and all that. So yeah, so Copa do Brazil, obviously the CBF just draw for the final matchups for the quarterfinals and the draw that also includes the semifinal and the final itself. So yeah, guys, and remember there is a two-legged tie in all of them, and And remember, there's also a two-legged tie final in the Copa do Brazil. It's not one direct final, or someone will be hosting the final, like England's FA Cup or a Spanish Copa del Rey or the U.S. Open Cup, or whatever. But but so these are the results about Copa do Brazil. So all the 8 teams that have qualified, you can see their team: Atlético Mineiro, Cruzeiro, Corinthians, Fluminense, Vasco, Botafogo, Bahia, and Atlético Paranaense are the 8 teams that have qualified. So yes, this confirmed. Yes, so we got at least 2 big games, 2 big derby matchups that I knew, I expected. I know I didn't make a prediction video, but I kind of knew that it was going to happen. So we got Corinthians, after knocking out their biggest rivals, Palmeiras, in the biggest derby of the country, they will be playing Atlético Paranaense, who knocked out São Paulo on penalties after tying 2-2 on aggregate. Despite they're not doing that great in Serie B, they just lost to Criciúma, I believe, 4-2 yesterday. But the fight against São Paulo was massive, and São Paulo were caught guard off, and it did took pretty well. This could have been a São Paulo Corinthians derby if São Paulo qualified, but no. Corinthians, no, São Paulo capitulated. So now Corinthians have an easier route. Corinthians are expected to be the favorites on this tie. I might try to do a preview, and also on the other hand, guess what? We get the Mineiro derby. Yes, as both teams qualified, Atletico Mineiro beat got revenge and are the current champions of the Brazilian Cup, the current holders. They knocked out Flamengo after losing 4-1 the final last November. They got revenge on Pens after tying 1-1 on aggregate. And they did lost at home 1-0 after beating them 1-0 at the Maracanã. They went through on Pens and they got it right. Every single pen went through besides one missing. And this is a story for Atletico Mineiro as they're trying to chase Cup as well. Especially. As for Cruzeiro, they barely passed through a Series C team, I believe. They're in Series C, CBF, CRB or something. They did tie 0-0 in the first leg at home, but they got the job done away at their ground 2-0, including the former Corinthians keeper, saving a penalty, by the way. That could have been the equalizer, and this could have brought to penalty shootouts itself. But they got the job done, and now they will be playing Atletico Mineiro in the derby, as known as the derby, or the derby in Boa Vista in the city, in the Mineiro state. That's the one. These 2 teams hate each other, and I cannot wait to see the Foxes and Chickens clashing once again in the coming weeks. And on the other side of the bracket, you get Fluminense versus Bahia. Fluminense came over by beating Internacional Porto Alegre 3-2 on aggregate, enough to advance. As for Bahia, they advanced also 3-2 against a team called Another Series C team I kind of forgot already. They got a 3-2 win. And as well, they beat them 3-2 at home and tied them 0-0. This is interesting because they just played each other 3 days ago. And then that game ended 3-3. Absolute classic fire game. It had everything, including a red card from Fluminense. I forgot who got sent off. Oh, I forgot. He got a red card in that game, and the game ended 3-3. Absolute thrillers, comebacks versus comebacks, drawings, and it was just crazy. I hope we get another one, even though of course this will be slightly more defensive. And I believe the first leg is in Bahia, and the second leg is back at Fluminense. I forgot to put the first legs. I think whoever got the favorable draws, I think will host the first leg. And then we got one more. Botafogo versus Vasco da Gama. Or Vasco Gama Botafogo. Carioca Clásico. The friendship black and white derby. Same color. Anti-Flamenguista. Anti-Flamengo derby. Yep, because these two teams cannot stand Flamengo. And then they're happy. More than happy that they're out of the competition. But these two teams have been trying to Vasco, they got a 3-1 win against Sinaloa. I think they're in Series C, tying them 0-0 away, beating them 3-1. As for Botafogo, they got here by beating Bragantino, Red Bull Bragantino, 3-0 on aggregate, 2-0 at Nil dos Santos Stadium, and 1-0 away at their ground. And now we got a Clásico, forgot the derby in Portuguese it's called, but the friendship derby, and because these two teams kind of do like each other, even though there's some here and there, but yeah, we have a Carioca Clásico between Vasco and Botafogo. I want to see who will advance further. Let's see. We will see about that, but yeah. And I will try to do a preview video to preview all these teams, but yeah, these teams have qualified, and we will see a matchup. So yes, as you can see in that side of the bracket, the options are Corinthians versus Atlético Mineiro in the semifinals. You expect Corinthians to be the favorites, or Corinthians Cruzeiro, one of those two. You most likely say 75% of the time Corinthians have to advance, even though they lost to UV yesterday. Very inconsistent, but they are expected to advance. And then the other side of the bracket for the semis, we could have another Clásico Carioca if Fluminense do go through. We could have a Vasco Fluminense in the semis, or Botafogo Fluminense in the semis, unless we get a Bahia matchup or 1-2. But yeah, it's interesting. That's some big matchups. And the biggest options for the semis, you could say, is Corinthians, Atlético Mineiro, and Vasco Fluminense due to size, especially Flamengo, Palmeiras are out. A lot of these teams are out. So yeah, these are the only 8 teams. And let me talk about the response to the round of 16 matchups real quick. But yeah, Flamengo got knocked out by Atlético Mineiro. Great for Atlético Mineiro. They got revenge after they stole the cup, and I know they had to play each other 3 times in these last 2 weeks. In the league and the cup, twice. Flamengo won 1-0 in the league. And then a few days later, Atlético Mineiro beat them 1-0. And then in the cup time, 1-1, sending them to pens. And yeah. And oh shit. What I was saying, as for Flamengo, they should be absolutely disappointed and gutted. They were expected to go further. As for Felipe Luis' side, have to suffer defeat despite how many signings they have made. Samuel Lino, who looked good despite not scoring a goal and sadly missed the penalty, and for using some selection lineups wrong, like not using Everton or something, or and then despite also having Saul and Emerson Royale, it wasn't enough to beat the Chickens. Wasn't that impressive. Felipe Luis has been questionable. I don't know, man. Even though he happy birthday to him. He just turned 40 years old a couple days ago. But Flamengo should be doing better as they have to play that three. Now they gotta play that three-headed tie against Nacional, which we will address later on the stream. Because if you're Flamenguista, I know you're absolute gutted, especially your crosstown rivals all qualifying, and you have to go out. And then and then as for Fluminense versus Internacional, I think it was a great thriller of a game. Fair enough, the second leg just ended 1-1. I know Fluminense were just playing for the draw because they just needed a draw. Especially Gallino scoring that goal in like 46 seconds into the first half, 30 seconds in the first half. And yeah, in Internacional they just have been poor, I would say, in these last few months. They haven't had a great start to the season, even though it did one against Bragantino, but they're out of the cup. They also got to focus on the three-headed side against Flamengo as well in the coming weeks, starting tomorrow. And as for as for the big one, Corinthians Palmeiras. Corinthians, this was the biggest matchup because it was the Derby Paulista between Palmeiras and Corinthians instead of just waiting and Palm. But yes, Corinthians, they actually defeat Palmeiras 3-0 on aggregate, defeating them 1-0 at the Corinthians Arena. 1-0, the game was close. Memphis Depay scored that header, and then the second leg, it all capitulated for Palmeiras. It was 0-0 in the first 13-15 minutes. They got a red card. Got sent off. Sorry about that. Got sent off, hooked, and then Corinthians scored 2 corner kicks, I believe, on goal. Yeah, from set piece free kick, and another one from a corner. Make it 2-3-0. Game over. Alberto, I believe, had the assist, and there was nothing but funny about Palmeiras. We're just being immature, and this is what happens for Palmeiras. I think Alda Ferreira, I think his tactic ideas are running out, and he's just gonna do what Esteban Williams was at Chelsea, already thriving preseason, is expected to cook Crystal Palace. And yeah, and now they gotta rely on VAR after an incident that happened over the weekend. I heard about them robbing Serie A 2-1, robbing their goal and them getting favorable calls. It's not the right way to do it for Palmeiras. I think it's not sustainable, and unfortunately, they're gonna have to hold that, and they really need to fix up. They really want Copa Libertadores with Brasileño, so probably fight Flamengo for now on. But yeah, that's their focus: the league and the Libertadores. They could go trophyless. We will see. Vasco, Selen, how they got here, like I said, obviously we all know Vasco doesn't play good ball. They just got a reasonable draw against Atletico Mineiro, but they had to play haram ball in that first leg. I'm not gonna lie, it ended 0-0. And the second leg, in the first half, they had an injury of brilliant performances. They went 3-0 up in the first half, wrapped up, and they did concede early in the second half, but they managed to control the ball pretty well. Somewhat Vasco performance as they advanced to the quarterfinals, even though there isn't much to say about this game, so yeah, just Vasco's doing their job. But yeah, especially on these big games. But yeah, the big upset is the Flamengo one game eliminated earlier, which I did back them to be Atletico Mineiro again, but anything happens, it's football. And I want to say about one more game. Alright, I think that's it. I was just covering the big games. But yeah, Sao Paulo, real quick, they got eliminated early for drawing Atletico Paranaense, losing on pens on aggregate, going 2-0 at home, and then conceding at home and ending 2-1. Not a good result. And then they got a red card in the 4 minutes in the second leg, and then conceded 1-0. And they had to hold on pens, and Sao Paulo just looks awful in the cup for some reason. In the league, they are starting to improve after an awful start from Sao Paulo, but now they're starting to improve. But in the cup, it was just disappointing that they had to do. So yeah, if you're a Sao Paulo fan, Tricolor, you're probably furious. Now they're just gonna focus on getting better in the league, which they did have 2-0 win against Victoria, and now focus on the Copa Libertadores. And by the way, they do play today as a recording. We will do a watch along for Sao Paulo against Atlético Nacional and Fluminense in the Sudamericano against America to Cali. Both of them are playing in Colombia at the same time. The only difference is Sao Paulo are in Medellin, Atlético Nacional's home, and Fluminense's home is at Cali, in Cali, not California, Colombia, Cali, Colombia. And Fortaleza takes on Independiente. So there will be a watch along on this channel. Hopefully, if I could do the fourth, if not the second one. We will be here. We will be here, guys. So let me know any thoughts. So I'm off. I got things to do. So bye.